Aston Martin is finally bringing the long-awaited huge upgrades to really level up that car. I have all the information on what this can possibly be and what is confirmed for their future upgrade plans. The upgrades are a huge step in the right direction for Aston Martin. Well, first of all, let's talk about Spain, what we originally had with its car. A front wing came and a couple of other changes related to its front wing and just barely onto the top of the floor. They added a little gash into it to actually help airflow go to the diffuser. Well, now the actual underfloor of the car is going to be worked on. Apparently its biggest package yet, talked about by many of teams and what this could possibly entail for the team. Well, we do know that drag has been a problem for them. Now the track they're going into is Canada, and on paper, this car should perform, if not the strongest here. Obviously we have Red Bull, so I'm talking about the other teams. But, this is a track where I do firmly believe that Aston Martin and Red Bull will have a very competitive qualifying. And I'm talking about Monaco type qualifying. The reason for this being, now these upgrades, if they entail to do what they do, that Sector 3 should be a lot better for them. Now that is a sector that I think they still will lose out on because the Red Bull just has that insane grip and also its straight line speed. But the Aston Martin does match it on mechanical grip, especially going into rear-oriented corners. Now it's funny, they talked about the car in the beginning of the season being a very front-limited car. It's actually very good on its rear as well, though. It's a very stable car, it's got great balance, it's what allows Alonso to make the crazy moves that he did actually in Bahrain, but also what allows the car to be so nice on its tires. Now, Spain obviously did not promote that type of, really the success they've had throughout the whole entire season. Spain did quite the opposite. It actually destroyed their front tires. Mercedes was a lot better. Their new suspension they brought really helps on that anti-dive and really how they perform on the tires, and kind of killed Aston Martin's really momentum going into it. Now, that track looked a lot stronger on paper for them than it did for Mercedes, but they've been historically great there. Now the battle for P2 really is tight. Now, can Lance Stroll step up? We'll have to see. But the actual constructors, the way that the cars are, which car will be better throughout the whole entire season, that will be difficult to judge. I genuinely think by the end of the season, it will be a tie between Red Bull, Aston Martin, and Mercedes as to who is the best car and where the strengths lie. Now, Mercedes and Aston Martin are both pretty similar in one thing, and that is being hard on its brakes and going into slow speed corners. The thing now that actually Mercedes with its new upgrades has really improved upon is high speed cornering and medium speed cornering. Something the actual Aston Martin was carrying in was medium speed cornering. Now their car, still continuously throughout the season, is best in slow speed corners, going into the braking zones and getting out of them. The example I'm going to use is actually, funny enough, Miami. Now in Miami, in sectors 1 and 2, especially sector 1, they struggled a bit. Their setup wasn't really oriented towards that. Now in sector 2, towards the end of it, going into that really, I don't know, the part that nobody really likes in Miami, it's under the bridge, it's a very twisty, cornery turn, super slow speed, super good there because of the curbs going into that with mechanical grip. Now the straight, you'd think, hey, the drag on the Aston Martin is not that great. Well, they actually had very good aero efficiency when it comes to its DRS. Their DRS efficiency is great. Their straight line speed, on the other hand, isn't fantastic. When the DRS isn't open, they're not doing great. So these upgrades that are coming for its actual floor to be able to bring more air to the actual diffuser so they don't have to rely as much on their DRS efficiency. Red Bull has like a whole 8 or 9 kilometers almost on the Aston Martin every single race in pure speed without the DRS open. So that is where their efficiency really lacks. It's in the way that the car is performing under the floor. It's not picking up that same type of airflow and bringing it to the diffuser just like the Red Bull is. Now, no car on the grid is really doing that, with the exception of maybe, funny enough, Haas. And on the occasional day, Ferrari can sometimes kind of bring that speed in. Now, Aston Martin is obviously going to pick up a thing or two from it. And funny enough, actually, the director over there at Aston Martin has confirmed that their floor conceptually is not much different to the Red Bull floor. Now, this is a good sign. So them seeing the floor might give them a couple more hints as to where they can add, where they can't add. It's a good thing. They already got a very strong car in the top, but that underfloor seems to be very strong as well. Now, there is pictures that I have up on screen right now that are kind of the underfloor. It doesn't really give us much of an idea. It gives us some idea of how this looks, but not like the HD 4K picture we got of the actual Red Bull. Now that was an outstanding picture to see. I wish we would see the Aston Martin car. At the same, I don't, because other teams will get hints. I don't know. They are the second best team so far. I do want to see if it continues. But going on into it, they need to improve upon that DRS, or really efficiency going into without those DRS zones. Now, Canada. Sectors 1 and 2, I think, will be ruled by the Aston Martin. It won't be by a big margin, but those are all slow speed to medium speed corners. It revolves in the car being very rear oriented and not relying too much on its really how front limited it is. The car is strong in both, but especially in its balance and rear. Now, even going into turns 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, all those turns really require you to be strong in your rear tires, but also be able to keep those soft tires in a nice, really condition to where you're able to have a strong sector 3 and go to the wall of champions. They will be very strong going into that last chicane as well, definitely going into that braking zone and going out. They'll probably lose speed going down the straight, but honestly, when you're going to the wall of champions corner, the most important part there is if you can nail going into that. It's not about how much straight line speed you have going there. Obviously, that does play a factor, but how you set up your car, being able to pick up on the throttle as quickly as possible, Red Bull and Aston Martin will be stupidly strong there. And I mean extremely strong for the fact that it's definitely based off of mechanical grip and how well they can ride the curbs. Now, the Mercedes car actually has brought a lot to its car to be able to ride the curbs better. This will be a very big testament as to how well their car does under a track like this where curbs are extremely important. The walls are super close. Something similar to a Monaco when it comes to curbs and really going over bumps. They were strong there. They actually had a pretty decent car there, so I can't lie, Mercedes will be so strong here. I do feel like the edge will lean a little bit more towards that Aston Martin, and we could genuinely get a very competitive, really, race. That Red Bull in race pace seems to be unbeatable. Genuinely, it's just so perfect and everything. Now, every car is going to upgrade and get better. I do feel like the pack is closing up really a lot more than it was in the beginning of the season. I mean, now we're looking at it. Mercedes is back, competitive. Aston Martin somehow fell back. I don't believe these to be true. I do believe that Mercedes is back. I do think they're going to be a lot stronger going into the tracks, but even their director talks about them going into this track being a little bit weaker than Barcelona, where it's a lot more really flat for the cars. Riding curbs is important. Being able to toss that rear, they still say they had an nasty rear in Monaco, so it will play a factor as to how good they're going to be here. Qualifying will be very close. I do think the race will require some luck if we think Fernando is going to really bring that P1. But I do think a P2 is very possibly on that board, and I think he could overtake Perez, even with a good race from Perez. It'll be a very interesting track to see how well really Fernando and Aston Martin does. Especially playing his home race. Maybe he gets a podium. That'd be nice to see if he can prove a lot of people wrong. Do I think it's possible? Yeah. Do I think it's probable? Not much, honestly. It's real confirmation that we've gotten so far from the Aston Martin team. It's 2 big packages coming within the next 3 races. This is going to be the Canada one with the floor, focusing more on really being able to extract more out of its rear diffuser and bring upon that real efficiency going without the DRS. The next upgrade that's coming to Silverstone, and they did this actually last year as well. I don't know if you guys remember, but the actual AMR, the B spec that ended up coming in, they only really added a couple of upgrades. One was to Singapore very late in the season. It was a floor upgrade. Now, another upgrade that was added to its car was aero efficiency. They added a whole bunch of stuff onto the car, a couple little pieces here, a couple little pieces here, to make the car really stand out in certain spots and be able to make its airflow go more efficiently and exactly to where they want it. Now, the AMR 23 is pretty simple on both the top of its floor, so I think a lot of efficiency will be added to the top of the floor, but also around the side pods and going into its engine cover, we don't have many pieces really dictating its airflow to extract that much more performance out of it. That is what Silverstone will bring. I'll go more into depth about that, but what's really coming here to Canada will be the floor. I'll be excited if they bring a couple more things that I can talk to you guys about and if I get visual pictures. I hope I can bring all this information to you guys on either Wednesday or Thursday of this week and keep you guys informed on what is really going to happen with this Aston Martin car, where we might see these changes, what it's comparable to. Let's hope for a great weekend for Aston Martin, and let's see if they can take the fight to really the scary Max Verstappen. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world, and peace.